You know, when I was your guys' ages, about 18 or something, I was first introduced to Krishnamurti, and had a very profound impact on my life at that time. Him and Alan Watts started me on this journey in a very real way. And then when I was 29, I found Tai Chi in Oslo after moving here. And then I started to have a practice, because before all this time I was reading and then wondering and walking through the forest, but then now I had a practice. So and then after 12 years of that, I found Aikido through Demetrius. So that's a little bit briefly of how my path started. Anyway, this path of Aiki. So I've actually quite been influenced by the Tao, and I'd like to start with reading from the Tao Te Ching, so that you guys are all tuned in and ready to receive what's going to be transmitted here. So this is number 15, and it says, "The ancient sage of Tao was subtle, yielding, and childlike. His profound comprehension of the Tao eludes us. Because it is beyond definition, we must recognize it through metaphors. Hesitant and alert, as if crossing a winter stream. Watchful and aware, as if awaiting unexpected encounters from all sides. Quiet and polite, as if a guest. Dispersing and subdued, like ice melting away. Simple and unpretentious, like the uncarved block. Open and receiving, like the broad valley facing upward. All embracing and unassuming, like muddy water. How is it possible to absorb all impurities and remain untainted? By quiescence, just as cloudy water clears when it becomes still. How can one maintain this quietude and this peace? By allowing movement, like the ripples of the settling water. Those who preserve the secret of the Tao live without exceeding their own needs, content with what they have and who they are." So, 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I felt a lump in my neck here, and pretty much I had an idea what it was. But the doctor confirmed it. Yes, I had tonsil cancer. It spread to some lymph, and that was at that moment I got kind of numb. My wife was with me, so she could hear what the doctor said, and she could help me understand it later, because I just went kind of numb. You can imagine, perhaps, when you hear such news. So, what happens then? Well, I'm rather confused about what to do and what not to do, and I had asked the doctors, well, what if I do nothing? And they said, well, then you'll die. Because I have a brother who also died of cancer, and I knew that cancer journey was hard and it didn't always end well. So I went up to the forest where there's peace and there's great examples of harmony and peace. And I cried. I cried till my face was wet. The tears ran down my neck into my shirt. And I was feeling really stupid for abusing my body in the ways that I had, creating such an imbalance. And I wept. And then I just announced to the universe that I'm sorry. How could I make such a mistake? That now I am faced with death. So, to put it in words, I closed my eyes and I said, "Oh man, did I fuck up?" Pardon my French. But then all of a sudden, something started happening. As I apologized to the universe for not paying attention, I started to really feel the sadness of the possible loss of my life. And I started to mourn it, even though I still had it. And the sorrow was just filling me up. And I started feeling maybe guilty. And so then I feel like, well, I can feel guilty, and I can punish myself for all these stupid things. But I knew that intuitively that being guilty and punishing myself would not lead me anywhere. It would just lead me to a deeper hole of suffering. And then I forgave myself. I forgave myself. It was the hardest, most beautiful thing I ever did up to that point. Okay, I fucked up. Sorry about my language here, but that's the way it was. And as I expressed forgiveness to myself, that here I am now. All that I did was before brought me to this point. Remember that. This is important. All it was before brought me to this point of forgiveness. And I was, in a way, liberated from my own suffering, in a way, for a moment. And so what's the next thing to do? Well, you have to go forward, don't you? So you kind of make a plan. And the plan came very obviously, and it's kind of obvious, everybody says it, but when you feel it is different than when you know it. And it became, I have to stop putting in things that are not good for me and focus on absorbing that which is healing and beneficial. And I had, like I said, a bit of liberation there. And then I walked back home. I'm not sure if it was the same day. All these days kind of meld together. And say it as it was, I was sitting on the toilet and I started crying. I was crying for all the things that I would lose when I died. If I died now or in 10 years, who knows? But I started really mourning loss of my children, the contact with my children. They weren't lost, but I would be gone. I started to think about things that, like, grandchildren I would never experience, and all these things. And I was crying in deep, deep sorrow. And then, like that, I realized instantly that the things that I was feeling sorry for were blessings in my life, right? So if you had nothing that you cared about, then it wouldn't make any difference if you died or not died. It was because of these things that filled me with such joy that I could feel such sorrow. And these two things became one, the joy and the sorrow. Okay? So I was at one point crying in sorrow, and the next instant, happy that I had these things in my life. And then I was sad, and then I was happy, and then I was sad and happy. And it was the same thing. It was not different anymore. And to this day, I can be quite happy and turn it into sadness, or I can be quite sad and turn it into happiness. To put it, to use those words. Wow. That was like uniting the yin and the yang in a way. And it all happened on my toilet. So don't underestimate any small thing in your life, because it could be at that moment. So from here, things went a bit further. I live in a place where I can sit on my veranda and I can look out over Mjøsa, and there's a mountain, and the water's there, of course, and the forest. And I was thinking, you know, actually, what is my life? You know, my life is nothing. And that didn't make me sad. It was just like a fact in a way. Just like that mountain over there, in a million years will be ground down to sand. The mountain will disappear. And who will care? Who will even know? In the universe, maybe a planet far away with some kind of life forms on it just got obliterated somehow. Gone. Who knows? Who cares? And I think about, who was my great-great-great-grandfather? Grandmother? You know, we all know our grandparents probably, or maybe even our great-grandparents. But do you know your great-great-grandparents? Or even their parents? And when you go back just a little ways, there's hundreds of people. And each one of that person had to survive for you to be here now. So even though I was nothing, I was actually nothing in a long line of nothing. The mountain and the water have a relationship. That's what makes them worthwhile. My great-great-grandmother and great-great-grandfather had a relationship, made me. And I saw that all these bits of nothingness were only nothing when they weren't in relationship. Now, the whole universe, physical universe anyway, made up of particles, atoms, whatever, they all have relationships to each other through gravity, through electromagnetic energy, whatever. And it is this relationship that actually creates the universe. So it is not individual things that are important. It is the relationship between them. Okay, Aiki, right? This is Aiki. So relationship is everything, right? And how do we relate to things? You think about this, you know, we go to the dojo, we breathe. How do you relate? Okay, we relate to the breath, but do you relate to the air you're breathing in, right? So the air you're breathing in has the oxygen you need, and that oxygen came from some star before the earth was made, exploded, all these atoms came together, made oxygen, and now you're breathing it in. It goes into your body, gets incorporated in your body, eventually you breathe out, goes with carbon, you breathe out carbon dioxide, and this is something going in you and out of you. This is your breath. This is the relationship you have to air. And then this air also is in relationship to trees or plants, right? So the plants are breathing in the carbon dioxide, you're breathing out, we know this, and we're breathing the oxygen, they breathe out. And you see, it's the relationship. Same thing is true with water. The water you drink, you know, you just think, oh, I'm thirsty, I drink water. Well, that water has got a long, long history, and you're part of it. Okay? The water goes in you, it's in you, it goes out of you. The water is always in a flow. The water doesn't stop. Or maybe if it stops a little bit, but it doesn't stop long. So, and then the earth. We rise up out of the earth in a way, right? What are you made out of? You're made out of molecules. Where did these molecules come from? They came from the earth. And the sun took the water and the air and the earth, and through this miracle of photosynthesis, created these sugars that become our food, which makes us what we are. This bit of us is from plants, from the sun. It's all interconnected in a very strange way. And I was feeling this in the deepest way. What a profound effect it had on my life. I haven't even started getting therapy for the cancer yet. Every day was just blown away by all the intensity of these relationships. So I took two rocks, and I threw the rocks in the calm water. And you know, the rock hits the water and it makes a wave, goes out like this, right? A round wave. And the other one made a round wave. And these waves come together and they interact. It's a relationship. Now, if they come together in the right way, they're in phase and they create something more than they were before. But they can also go out of phase and annihilate each other. So this is the kind of relationships that we are entitled to have. They can be more, or they can cancel each other out. And both are important. It's not always that we have to be more and more and more. Sometimes you don't want to hang out with the people that are giving you energy that is out of phase with you, because it leads to nothing. So sometimes you come together and it creates more. Whew. These are the kind of relationships I want in my life. And these are the kind of relationships I have. So, and then, so what does this lead to? This leads to this cycle of flow. It's going in and out. And you know what? I am also this being called Robert, also a part of this flow. And it is life, and I will die. I eat these plants. I am dependent on death for my life. And then I had a kind of a vision. It's more like a poetic metaphor. And so I heard a knock on the door. So I opened it up. Who's there? It's Death. Shit. Death's at my door. What am I going to do? Well, what can you do? You got to let him in. You have no choice. You can never know when your time is up. Also remember this. Like I said, I had cancer. I don't know what's going to happen. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I don't know. Cancer might have nothing to do with it. But death is always there, can be knocking on your door at any moment. So I said, come in, sit down, have some tea. So I was pouring tea for Death, and he's sitting there, and I look at him when I'm giving him the cup, and I see this light in his eye. Wow, you know, you think of all darkness and stuff. And I see the light, and that light was my life. The light in Death's eye was my life. And again, just like the sorrow and the gratitude that happened in the bathroom, life and death became one. Yeah, it was just relationship. It was so natural and wonderful. And at that moment, I lost my fear of death. I don't care. It's going to happen anyway. What am I going to be afraid of? Right? And I don't know when it's going to happen. Just like we all know about, through Demetrius, the spirit that we have in the dojo. Well, you can also say it's kind of your attitude, right? So how is the attitude you have towards your life? You know, we cultivate this. We must. But we can also have an attitude of death. So when death comes, maybe you don't know when, maybe you don't know how, but you can kind of have an influence about how you meet that, right? So there's lots of examples in history of great warriors or people faced with death, and they welcome it, right? I was just yesterday watching a documentary on something that happened in 2016 in North Dakota at the Standing Rock Reservation, where they were putting a pipeline, oil pipeline, underneath the Missouri River. And for the people that lived on this reservation there, the Lakota people, this was sacrilege. And they were putting a pipeline right through burial grounds. I mean, how respectless could you imagine? Can you imagine? And for what? Well, you can think about the whole history of oil and all that if you want to, and you can get into it and figure that one out. But for them, it was the water. The water they had to protect. And as I mentioned before, the water is through us in all life, from fish to people to trees to dogs and cats and cows. The water is flowing through us. Without that water, we're nothing. So they had the attitude of, we're going to protect this water. And you know how they did it? With song and prayer. They didn't fight. They didn't confront the militaristic police that came to stop them from trying to make an awareness about what was going on. And they met these policemen, these militarized. They weren't even policemen. A lot of them were like mercenaries and like this, hired by the oil company. And they sprayed tear gas and had rubber bullets. And they stood in freezing cold water for hours and hours, and they didn't get cold. They got sprayed in their face with pepper spray, and they laughed because they had the spirit, and they were ready to die for their cause, right? That's powerful, right? So you could just imagine when you don't fear death, how empowered you are, right? We can talk about empowerment, and that'll come up maybe a little bit later. So here I was, getting ready, to meet cancer, right? So yeah. And then everything started having great meaning to me. You know, things already had meaning, had a greater meaning. If you want to say greater, less great. Anyway, it was like very important to experience life. going to the dojo, talking to my wife and my children. What I was putting in my body became quite important. It's going faster than I thought. That's all right. So the things I had been seeking since I was a young man, I suddenly found them. I had to seek. I didn't have to seek anymore. They were there. They were always there. I just didn't see them. What I would stop is things were stopping me from seeing the unity of things, and getting in the way of accepting the inevitable, and getting in the way of cultivating a spirit of harmony, of letting the Aiki flow. So this all happened before. So I had to go to the doctor a bunch of times, talk about what they were going to do. Now, the first doctor I had met who diagnosed me, she had told me, it's not, you'll be all right. You know, there's a good survival rate here. They're going to give you some radiation, and you'll be okay. So I believed her. She gave me good words, and I took those words to heart. So when I went to Oslo to get my my treatment plan, they said the radiation, and they said we're going to give you also chemo, cellulitis, right? Chemotherapy. And I was stunned. I mean, I watched my brother do this, and I didn't want to do this whatsoever. And I remember I'm not afraid of death at this point. So I'm like, well, I didn't really think I wanted to do that. So even though I'm not afraid of death, I'm still loving my life, right? So I'm not looking for death. That's a different story. I'm not trying to die. I don't want to die. I want my life. But at the same time, I want my life to be good. So I said, well, I don't know if I want to do this. And they were shocked, of course, you know. I don't think they had really people question their diagnoses or their treatment plans. Most people go to the doctor and they say, oh, doctor, I'm sick, save me, right? And they want the doctor to do everything for them. But I had already known up in the forest after I forgave myself that it was up to me what I was going to do. Yes, I need help. I want help. I never had cancer before. I don't really know how to do it, but I do have a body. It's interaction with the rest of the universe. I have a body that has an immune system that is 1 million years in the working or more. Actually, all of creation on Earth has given me this amazing immune system. True that I had not paid attention to it. Also true that I rather much ignored it when I was feeling okay. You know, you think about your immune system when you're sick, but think about it sometimes when you're not sick, right? So I know at the school there, you guys you have pretty good food available to you, right? So what are you putting into your body, right? This has an effect on the body. You put crap in, you're going to feel crappy. You put good stuff in, you're going to feel good. And not only the things that go in your mouth, but all the things that go in your ears and your eyes as well. So you make a choice, you know, at one point. And so I had this choice. Should I do chemotherapy or should I not? And again, I went back to the forest because I realized if I didn't do it, and there could be consequences of that as well, right? Because that actually, I forgot to mention this, that right before I forgive myself, or perhaps right after, I understand that there are consequences of what I do, right? And I have to accept these consequences. You do something, there's going to be consequences. That's all there is to it. Either you're aware of them or you're not aware of them. You can imagine them or they're unimaginable. But something's going to happen, and you got to deal with it. Well, I got a message here on the computer. The meeting has been upgraded. Okay. So I'm up in the forest again, and I have this chant going in my head. Chemo, no chemo. Chemo, no chemo. I have to make a decision here. And then And then I see I have this immune system, which has got a million years of force pushing it forward. And I have done my best now to stop screwing with it, right? To pay attention to it. I had these lymph nodes, that had swollen, had a tumor in them. How many of you ever think about your lymph system, right? Your lymph system is wicked important, just like your blood and everything else. But we never think about these things until we have to, and I had to. So I said, okay, I'm gonna trust the universe. I'm gonna trust this body. Yes, I need to have help. The help comes in radiation, but the chemo, I'm not doing that. That's going to put more poison into my body, and I don't think I need more poison. I think that's the problem I got in the first place. So the old saying is, if the disease doesn't kill you, the cure will. So both radiation and chemotherapy are carcinogenic. They can give you cancer. I probably get cancer from all this radiation I got. Who knows? But okay, so I went back and I told him, no, I don't want to take this. And I had, of course, got on Google and look at what it is, what it does to you, and what the possible side effects are afterwards, And I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. So I started pushing them. I said, well, if I do it, what better percentage of survival do I have? And they were like humming and hawing, well, like this, And I know they know all the numbers because that's what they do. They have clinical trials to prove these things. But there are some things you cannot put in a clinical trial, like somebody's attitude or even diet. They don't, because perhaps the people who fund these trials want to have a certain result. But also it's like, if you say, okay, do this and you probably won't get cancer, do this and you will have cancer. No one's going to do this one other part they don't know about. So they don't do too much on that. There are plenty of examples of studies, but no clinical trials. And doctors always need the clinical trials. That's the numbers. That's how they prove it. So I was pushing them for numbers. I said, well, if I do this chemo, how much increases my chances of survival? And they didn't really give me a number. And I said, what, 20%? No, not that much. And I was like, what, 10? It's more like 8, they said. And I was like, 8%? I can do that with my attitude, man. I can do that. So I was all happy all of a sudden that I made that decision, So then it started, and it's a pretty wild ride, I'll tell you. Because to give me radiation in my neck, they have to keep my head each time. That's every day, every 5 days, or sometimes 6 days a week for 6 weeks. I have to go to hospital. They bolt my head down to the table with this mask, so I just have to lay there, and then this machine shoots radiation through my neck from 9 different directions. And I have contact through Facebook groups, support groups, of many head and neck cancer patients. And I know that there's many that are terrified of having their head bolted to a table. And I won't kid you when I say, even though I had no fear of death, there is still anxiety that comes with things, And so I started calling this mask. They make a mask that they put on your face and they mold it to your face. And then this thing is strapped to the table, so your head is on the table like this. And I started calling it a death mask, And then my brother said, wait a second, that's your life mask, right? Because these people, this amazing technology is there to help you to survive, So this is for your life, not for your death. And then they also, boom, changed the attitude, right away. So sometimes a sentence can do it, or a word, or just a flower sometimes, So yeah, a life mask. I liked it. So when they bolted me down to the table, they said, okay, do you want, some people take sedatives, so they could just lay there and kind of be numb. And I said, no, I don't want that. And they said, well, you want us to play music? And I thought about it. I like music. Nah, I want to do it with no music, I just want to experience it. So for 20 minutes it takes, each day, 20 minutes. And, it's like nothing. You've had if you had an x-ray when you were at the dentist, or if you broke a bone, you don't feel it. That's just one, and it's little. Okay, so they're giving me lots, and they're giving it to me every day. And what this does is it kills things, radiates it to death. And the plan is to radiate the cancer cells every day so that they don't form again, right? So because they form really, really quickly. Cancer is an amazing thing. By the way, the thing in my neck there, I grew that. That was part of me, and I mourned that too. I said, "Oh shit, my tonsil! They had to cut out my tonsil." I was sad. I was so sad they had to cut it out, even though it was cancerous, because that was me. I grew that thing. It was probably a mistake to grow it, but it was still me. And so I cried for the loss of body parts, even though they were small, and even for the tumor, because I'm an Aikidoka, I went to Demetrius. I said, "Hey, Demetrius, all these people are saying like kill cancer and fight, kill cancer." And I said, "But I can't really do that. That's not the way. The way is to harmonize." So how the hell do you harmonize with cancer? It's a thing, but I didn't really. I'm going to harmonize with my body more, and I let the body do what it had to do, and the radiation do what it had to do. But anyway, every day going in there, getting strapped to the table, being radiated, and for about 2 weeks was no problem. I didn't really understand. I didn't get too many changes, and I started all this time working on my body in a way. I would start like walking every night because I knew that there's a hard road ahead. And I was eating a lot, what I could, because people with cancer and they go down in weight, that's a big problem for the doctors. They don't like that. So there's a period of time in the beginning when you can prepare, like if you're going into battle, you should prepare when you go into battle. I shouldn't sit there and worry about it. You should get ready. So even though I wasn't like battling, I knew I was coming into a hard time. And but I was feeling really, really good. I didn't feel sick. It didn't hurt. I mean, I just felt all of a sudden I was in the shower. So, "Yeah, what's this?" I didn't know I had cancer. It was just sneaky, And so I would go out for walks in the evening, and pretty soon I found myself running, because I felt so good. And it was a beautiful feeling to know that I was feeling this good going into a hard time. So every day I had focused on that. But after a couple weeks, well, it started to happen, I started to feel it. The first thing that started to happen was I started getting dry in my mouth, because not only the cancer cells are affected, and not only the cancer cells are quickly reproducing, but skin cells, both on the outside of your body, on the inside of your body, they are also kind of cells that reproduce quickly. You can imagine, you eat some hot soup, you burn yourself. Okay, those die and they go away, but you get new ones real quick. So there's a great turnover of cells there too. Think about that. Inside of you, there's both life and death all the time. Every moment that you're alive, thousands, millions of cells are dying right now, right as you sit there. You are death, you are life. You're both. And the things that die, they get kind of recirculated. They get recycled, right? So this is also the way of the universe, is recycling, So everybody's talking about recycling, but it's natural. It's a natural thing. It's when we don't do it is we get in trouble, right? So the body does it. The forest does it. The tree dies, falls down, becomes dirt. New trees come up. Just as simple, It's really simple. You use what's there in the best way. So I also had a mantra there. It was recycle the unnecessary, repair the necessary. So I was talking to my inner being. I was talking to not only cells in my body, but I was getting down to molecules. I have enough of a background in science and stuff where I can visualize these things. And by the way, on the net, there's some pretty cool visualizations of what happens on inside of a cell. You know, I recommend you check it out so you can see who you are on the deepest level. The interactions of molecules, and it's just mind blowing. You know, think about the universe and the galaxies, but the same stuff is happening on the inside. So now you guys are all sitting there. Your heart's beating. You're breathing, your kidneys are functioning, I hope, and your liver, and all this stuff is functioning together individually. A heart is not doing what a kidney does. The kidney does not do what a heart does. But yet, inside of you, there is this harmony through evolution, through eons of time. So you see, Aiki is not something outside of you. It's something inside of you. Aiki is not something we created in our heads. Aiki is what is. It is the way of the universe, right? We have this thing called harmony. Okay, so is there disharmony in the world? How can it be any disharmony at all, right? So the only thing that looks like disharmony, I would say, is focus like this. At this moment, oh shit, I have cancer. I'm not in harmony. Well, let's zoom out, right? Let's take this for example. Imagine a critter, a life form, being chased by another life form. All it wants to do is survive, and the other one's chasing it. So, what's the situation here? How would you read that one, right? How would you think about it? You see this one creature, and this other one's chasing it down, and it's running for its life, and the other one's trying to get it. You would say, oh, that poor little creature is going to be eaten by the bigger creature, right? So let's zoom out a little bit. Boink. Oh yeah, that little creature is a bacteria, and the bigger one is a leukocyte in your body, part of your immune system. All of a sudden, it's like, that's the good thing, and that thing you want to get rid of, right? So then you can zoom out again, and you can say, oh, it's a person, right? There's a person there, and it's good. That person should live. And then you zoom out again, and you see who the person is. Maybe it's Adolf Hitler. Maybe it's Mahatma Gandhi. You know, so what are you going to look at? What perspective are you going to take to understand what is harmony, what is not harmony? So the perspective we take, you know, it's like zoom in, zoom out, has very much to say on what we experience. But if you take your life, I take my life, I take 6 years of my life, cancer and today. Cancer was no less harmonious than anything else. In fact, it led to more harmony, right? So I say that Aiki is what is. Aiki is everything, and the only thing that's stopping us from experiencing that is things that happen up here, right? Perspective. Perspective is such an important thing to meditate on, to contemplate. No perspective is wrong, but no perspective is complete. I think, you know, I don't see how it could be. It's like just like the truth, right? The truth is greater than words, so nobody can say what the truth is. We can talk about the truth. We can say how we perceive the truth, perception, but nobody can say what it is because it involves too many things. So the same thing with harmony. So this is all happening inside of me on a cellular level, and before I know it, my spit glands aren't working anymore, or not too much, you know. I get really thirsty, and of course, water is important for life. Anybody who's go through any kind of disease with us say, drink water, stay hydrated, and it's true. You got to do it. Thank the water. The Lakota say the water is the first medicine. So I had to have that water bottle with me all the time. Demetrius let me take a water bottle into the dojo. So thanks for that. But even now, I'll get to that later. But so I was still going to the dojo, and I was drinking water, and I couldn't always go to the dojo because I was going through therapy. But when I could go, I would go. And if I couldn't train, I would sit there and be part of the community, which in itself was quite healing for me, you know. Coming back to feeling the unity of things, you know, the sorrow and the gratitude, the life and the death, and all the water and everything. All these things makes me alive. And being alive, if you feel alive, how does it feel? Oh, I feel alive. It's a wonderful thing. So yeah. So anyway, I'm strapped to this board, to this table, and they're radiating me every day. I have to go out, but I will say, I'm from America, and there isn't socialized medicine there. I'm sure you heard about it lately. So for me, the experience was quite good. You know, the taxi would come pick me up in the morning, drive me to a bus, and it wasn't a regular bus; it was a hospital bus. And on the bus, there were nurses. In the back of the bus, there were beds for people who couldn't sit. In the front, you could sit. They would serve you tea and coffee. There was internet there. You get your own table. And I started writing. I wrote a book on that thing. It's called Journey. And it's like this. So if you want that, let me know. I'll send it to you. And so every day this happens, you know. And the next thing that happens is you get radiation burns, but they don't start on the outside. They start on the inside. They start on your mucous membranes, right? You've been burned before, right? So when you first get burned, it hurts. And if you get burned bad enough, you get a blister. And maybe if that blister pops, it gets open sore. And if you just touch it, it's painful, you know? So I got these things on my tongue, my cheeks, my gums, back of my throat. And it's painful. And you would think, well, okay, well, they'll go away. They'll get better. And they do, kind of, but you get new ones. So it's always coming, you know, it's always coming. So you kind of got to hunker down, man. You got to get in for the long haul. And so how do you deal with pain? Pain like this, you know, which is constant. It's always there. What are you going to do? You can take your medications and like get rid of the pain, or not get rid of it, but get so obliviated that you don't care about the pain. That's pretty much how it works. And I didn't really want to do that. There were some times when I did do it. I come to eating later. I'll talk about that. But so mostly it was in my mouth, in my throat, right? So if you have to swallow your own spit sometimes, even if there's no spit, you do have this tendency to swallow, right? And that hurt a lot. So how long can you go without swallowing? Try it sometime. But I found out in that pain, I sit bone still, kind of having my tongue kind of hover inside of my mouth, so it's not touching my teeth, and I don't swallow. Then I could actually come to this point of no pain, you know? And the pain also wasn't bad either, because the pain meant I was alive, right? I could be dead and have no pain, but I was alive and had pain. So the pain was actually a good thing, because it proved to me that I was alive. Sounds strange, but don't knock it till you try it. And to this day, I hardly remember the pain. I know it was there. I kind of remember it, but I was grateful for the pain. Imagine, it's crazy, man, but it's what happened. I was happy that I could feel pain, right? Well, maybe it's not so strange if you think about like some people who cut themselves, right? These people that are in so much turmoil, they want to feel something, so they feel pain, right? This is less, it's not so uncommon as it might appear, right? Some people seek pain. I didn't seek it, but I had it. I absorbed it into my life. So when things were at its worst for about a month, right? Every day, there was two states of being I had. Only two, pretty much, almost only two. There was pain and there was no pain. And if you can make pain be something grateful, what is no pain? It's bliss. Ah, get into moments of no pain, which I'm sure most of you can feel it right now. It's just like my body was just humming with this ecstasy. That's when I learned to sit. I learned to sit still. And I wasn't searching for bliss. I was trying to have a break from pain. And when I took a break from pain, I found a deeper meaning of life. I found, how do we say? Let me put it this way. There was stillness, which is sitting and being as still as possible. And with that stillness, there came a clarity, because I also learned to still my mind at the time, because I was sitting a lot. And then because of my background and my experiences and stuff, I know that the mind can override much of other things. So I just kind of learned to let that go. And what was left? What was left was living. So there was pain, and then there was stillness, and through that stillness came clarity, right? There was this amazing clarity. Whoa, I mean, when things are clear, there's no question anymore. You know what you got to do, right? Example, if you touch a hot stove, you only do that once, right? It becomes so clear. Through that pain, you understand right away. Don't do that. If you don't know what to do, well, you do know what to do. You always know what to do. You got to breathe, right? If you stop breathing, you die, So if you don't know what to do, sit still and do what you have to do. You have to breathe. And then after a while, you'll find, okay, I'm breathing. That's good. I got that under control. What's the next thing I got to do? If you don't have to do anything, don't do anything. So you got to go have a drink of water, do that. If you need to eat food, do that. If you need to stretch your body, do that. It will become quite clear to you what you need to do. And in this clarity was a shining light of gratitude. Maybe some people would call it love. I don't know. I don't call it that. I call it gratitude. And it came through me and out of me. It wasn't me. I didn't have it. It was just there, and I was experiencing it. So you can look here. Let's see, on this book, on the cover of this book, right? So at the bottom is like this ring of water that represents stillness, water, and then the diamond is clarity, and then the heart is gratitude, right? So I lived that. I lived that for not only 5 weeks of pain, but I lived that for months. I would say 3 months of so much life in 3 months. It's incredible, right? So for example, if you say, well, Rob, how long have you been doing Aikido? Oh, I've been doing Aikido for 18 years. Wow, you must be good. But, if you guys are doing Aikido every day for 2 sessions a day, you get in a day what I got in a week, right? So you can't really measure it that way. So in those 3 months, I was alive all the time. I was seeped in it. Things made me cry with gratitude that it would sound crazy. I remember one time there was a fly that flew by, and it cast a shadow on a tree. Shadow was there, and then it was gone. It was like, was it ever there? Whoever would experience that shadow, it's there, it's gone. But I experienced it. And then I could even experience that. It just blew me away. So the shadows and the light, the play of them, which is constant, you know, if you have your eyes open, there's always light and shadows, colors, all kinds of feelings, you know, feelings of friendship and any ability to do things, you know. So I was living that for a long time, and I've talked to other people who have had experiences like this, and 3 months is a long time. So I was truly blessed to be able to be there, and it's mostly thanks to pain. So is there harmony in pain? Well, it could lead to it. Let's put it that way. So, I don't know. Does anybody want to ask any questions?